Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world, and particularly, of course, in Great Britain, but also to welcome to the show 4 exciting and stimulating players who are going to pit their wits, their ingenuity, and their verbal dexterity against each other as they try and speak for just a minute on the subject that I give them, and doing that also without hesitation, repetition, and deviation. So in no order of seniority, would you please welcome Paul Merton, Steve Frost, Clement Freud, and Liza Tarbuck. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who is going to help me keep the stopwatch going and also blow a whistle when 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of a broadcasting house, in the heart of that great throbbing city of London. As we begin the show this week with Clement Freud. Clement, the subject is how to get rid of hiccups. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The Hiccups live in Ashby de la Zouche. A really nice family. There is Daddy Hiccup and Mummy Hiccups and the little Hiccups, 8 of them, 5 boys and 3 girls. And if you want to get rid of them, a very good idea would be to shoot them, but you could hang them or set a swarm of killer bees at them, which is extremely helpful in the getting rid of stakes. The Hiccups spell their name H-I-C-K-O-U-G, then the first letter again, S, which is an extraordinarily stupid way of alphabetic use.
Paul Merton has challenged.
Was there hesitation there?
No, there wasn't a hesitation. But, he was struggling there a bit and getting utterly devious. But anyway, 19 seconds. Clement, I consider that incorrect challenge, so you have a point for that, and you keep the subject of how to get rid of hiccups. 19 seconds starting now.
The hiccups are extraordinarily boring, which is why so many folk want to get rid of them. I have suggested...
Steve Frost challenge.
Repetition of rid.
Yes, you were trying to get rid of them before.
No, it's
on the card. You're allowed... sorry, Steve, I know you haven't played the game as much as others. You're allowed to repeat the phrase...
It was a stupid mistake.
No, it wasn't a stupid mistake.
It was a stupid mistake.
A natural mistake. You can repeat any word individually on the card or not. So,
I'm sorry,
Clement,
I'm sorry,
another
the
incorrect challenge, another point to you. 12 seconds. Tell us more about this ridiculous subject, starting now.
A hiccup is something that happens in your throat.
Steve Frost challenge.
Repetition of hiccup.
That's on the card.
Oh, that's on the card. I'll get that. Right, I see, right.
You're helping Clement get lots of points.
Okay,
right.
Got it now.
You have played the game enough to know that.
I've got it now.
Yes, right. 10 seconds. Clement, having got another point. How to get rid of hiccups, starting now.
In Leicestershire, hiccups are quite common. They happen to you when you look at cinemas or theatres.
Paul Merton challenge.
This is deviation. How do you get hiccups looking at cinemas and theatres? It's absolute rubbish.
How do you get hiccups?
You get hiccups by swallowing food the wrong way. You don't get to looking at a cinema.
Not necessarily.
I've actually got a very good cure for hiccups.
Me too.
Yes. Well, you've said you should shoot them. Shoot them or hang them. What are people in China going to do? People having a bit of chow mein, hiccups, are going to shoot and hang themselves. It's an outrageous suggestion.
Paul, don't worry, I'm with you. It is a devious thought. You have got the subject, and Clement has lost it at last. And there are 2 seconds to go on how to get rid of hiccups. Paul, starting now.
A foolproof method of getting rid of hiccups is...
Yes, tell us your foolproof way.
Well, it's Andy Smart, who me and Steve know. Andy Smart, it's that if you've got bad hiccups, if you recite out loud what you had for breakfast that morning, that I beg your pardon? Grape nuts. It almost invariably works. If you sort of, if you start getting hiccups and just say, well, I had liver, you'd be surprised. 9 times it stops hiccups. I don't know how or why, but it does.
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went. He gained that extra point for doing so, because whoever does that when the whistle goes gets that extra point, and he's equal with Clement Freud in the lead. Steve Frost, your turn to begin. The subject is, I'm a bit nervous of this one, Old Nick. 60 seconds starting now.
Old Nick, of course, another way of saying the devil, does he exist? And if so, Is he wearing...
Paul Merton challenge.
Bit of a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, I'm afraid, Steve, yes. So Paul Merton has got Old Nick, and he's got 55 seconds starting now.
I know Nicholas is a bit sensitive about his age, but wouldn't you be if you were 96? It's one of the most extraordinary careers in broadcasting that's ever happened, really. When he talks about being at the coronation of the dear old Queen, he's talking about Victoria. And what a wonderful sight it was as her and Albert walked down the aisle. Of course, her husband, whose surname was Memorial Hall, was a wonderful individual, and they had a great marriage.
Steve challenge.
There are two wonderfuls, I think.
There were two wonderfuls.
Was there?
Yes,
Yes,
there
two
was
wonderful.
indeed, yes.
Oh.
I'd have given it against you anyway. What
Would
who
you?
challenged? 32 seconds, Steve. Tell us something more about Old Nick starting now.
Beelzebub is another name for Old Nick, which I don't quite understand, because it doesn't actually sound as if he's an evil sort of person. Old Nick does sound nasty. He's like someone who steals antiques, in my book, which, of course, I haven't written yet, but when I do...
Lisa, you've challenged.
Hesitation?
No, repetition.
Repetition. You can sit here and listen for a while.
That's right, repetition of sounds. Well, Lisa, right.
Yeah.
You have 18 seconds. You've got another point, of course, for a correct challenge, and you have Old Nick starting now.
Well, my compadre here, Steve, has been going on about Old Nick being a devil. I thought that Old Nick was something to do with Father Christmas. So it shows what kind of Xmasses we have in...
Paul challenge.
Xmasses?
Xmasses, yes. I don't know where you've been around the festive season, but haven't you ever seen on hoardings and so forth?
No, you're thinking of Exorcist. It was a film with that was the devil.
Sometimes
Exorcist.
people abbreviate Christmas into Xmas.
Do they?
They do.
And how long has that been going on?
Ever since you were a little boy.
2001 years, really. I should get out more. I really should. I've never heard of it.
Lisa, an incorrect challenge. You have a point for that, of course. You keep the subject. You have Old Nick. You have 6 seconds starting now.
Old Nick, of course, if we are going to...
Clement Freud challenge.
We've had, of course.
You did say, of course, but last, yes.
You will with me. Thank you very much indeed. It's hard, you know.
I've never heard such a melodious moan in my life.
Oh, Nicholas, you must have done, surely.
I don't know why you clap him. I mean, he's absolutely wicked. But you know I will laugh against myself. But there we are. That's what a job is all about, isn't it? Who challenged? It was, of course, Clement Freud. 4 seconds. Old Nick starting now.
Of course, Old Nick is often thought to be another name.
So Clement Freud was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now increased his lead ahead of Paul Merton in that round, then Lisa Tarbuck and Steve Frost in that order. Lisa, it's your turn to begin. The subject is worms. Tell us something about worms in just a minute, starting now.
My mother said when I was young, if you didn't have worms, you'd never lived. Which was interesting coming from her. Because she's actually terrified of them.
Paul Merton, you challenge.
I think this is a philosophy I would like to distance myself from.
I know. Poor Mum.
Worms and nits.
How will she recover from it? How did you get your worms, by the way?
I don't know. If you'd listened to my grandmother from eating dog's bones or something, which of course I haven't done.
Yes.
I don't know. It was virulent.
I think I got them once from eating snails in the garden. But anyway. So what's your challenge, Paul, within the rules of just a minute?
Well, I think it's deviation to say that unless you've had worms, you haven't lived.
Yeah, I think it probably is,
Yes.
in spite of what Lisa's mother said. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Just because you've had worms...
No, wait a minute. I've rethought that because, on the other hand, Lisa's mother can say that, but it doesn't mean to say, and it may be a devious thought, but she can still say it, and Lisa can repeat what her mother said, so she hasn't deviated. So, Lisa, you still have worms. I'm sorry.
That's why I'm fidgeting.
You're right. And you have 51 seconds starting now.
Another word for a worm, of course, is an invertebrate. The useful thing about it is you get more for your money, because if you cut one in half with a spade or with scissors, if you're that way inclined, they then form into 2 separate worms and then go about aerating your garden soil. I remember having to dissect a worm in class in 1978, which was the Queen's Silver Jubilee, and we painted ours.
Paul challenged.
Well, no, the Queen's Silver Jubilee was 1977.
Oh, no.
You're
Which
right,
Queen?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
So it's deviation.
Yes, it was.
Which queen are we talking about?
Right, Paul. Correct challenge. 30 seconds. You tell us something about worms starting now.
If you serve somebody a worm upside down, it means I love you. And there couldn't be a fonder thing you can do for another human being. Worms are quite useful in the garden. They do.
Clement Freud challenge. Hesitation, yes, you've forgotten what they do. 19 seconds. Worms with you, Clement, starting now.
Worms is a town in Hesse, which is the centre of the viticultural equipment industry.
Paul challenge.
I disagree. I don't think it is.
It is, actually.
Well, I don't know. I was just hoping that nobody else knew.
Clement, you have another point on the subject. 11 seconds. Worms starting now.
Lugworms are probably nice.
Paul challenge.
That was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation. Paul, you've got worms again. I'm so sorry. This is a difficult subject. You've got the subject of worms. You have 9 seconds starting now.
I suppose it will come to...
Clement challenge.
You supposed previously.
You did say supposed.
Did I?
Yes, you did. I
Not
remember
like
now.
me.
8 seconds, Clement. Worms starting now.
The diet of worms is something you learn at school, although presently...
Lisa challenge.
Hesitation.
That was hesitation, Lisa. I love the way you challenge.
It's so hard to get in, it really
I
is.
know, you challenge and you burst out with laughter. It's great
I'm
fun.
just excitable.
I know. 3 seconds. Tell us something about worms, Lisa, starting now.
Your tapeworm is an interesting creature with a hook on its head.
So Liza Tarbuck, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and with others in the round, she has leapt forward, and she's now equal with Paul Merton in second place, just a point or two behind Clement Freud, our leader, and Steve Frost is trailing them all just a little. Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is sleeping policemen. Sleeping policemen, starting now.
Well, it's what they call those lumps in the road. Traffic calming exercises, I suppose they are, where the cars can't go as fast as they normally would down side streets that may be near schools or in quite residential areas. I don't know where the phrase or description sleeping policeman originates from. It's quite a witty remark, I suppose, but
Clement Freud challenge.
He's supposing again.
No, I don't think he said suppose earlier on in this round.
it's got nothing to do with you. They're making decisions for you there, Nicholas.
Clement, correct challenge. 38 seconds. Sleeping policemen, starting now.
I think sleeping policemen were probably invented by manufacturers of vehicles, because when you go over a sleeping policeman, it does such harm to your front axle and that at the back. The suspension is deviously...
Paul Merton challenge.
Hesitation.
That was a hesitation. A sleeping policeman is back with you, Paul. You have 23 seconds starting now.
The great train robbery happened in 1963, and a lot of people said at the time that the policemen were sleeping on the job. They should have been aware that this huge vast of money was being transported.
Steve Frost challenge.
Huge vast of money, I think he said, didn't he? You missed it.
It was in a huge vast, the money.
Oh, right, sorry.
It's a train carriage.
Your challenge is
train
deviation
carriage,
from English as we understand it and normally speak
That's
it.
exactly it. It's exactly my
All
point.
right, Steve, we'll give it to you. We'll give you a point and 12 seconds on a sleeping policeman starting now.
Never, ever wake up a sleeping policeman, because he might hit you on your head with his truncheon, which he keeps going by.
Paul Merton challenge.
Truncheon?
I think if you're going to have him on the other pronunciation, I've got to give it back to him on your pronunciation. So, Paul, you have it back. 5 seconds. Sleeping policeman starting now.
If you're an avid reader of the Noddy stories, you'll remember P.C. Plod falling asleep on the occasion.
So, Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, and with other points in the round, has leapt forward. He's now equal with Clement Freud in the lead, followed by Liza Tarbuck and Steve Frost in that order. And Clement, it is your turn to begin. The subject is health food. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Health food is one of the great growth industries at the moment. Go down any road or street or mews or crescent, and you will find health food emporia.
Steve, you challenge.
Deviation, you can't go down a crescent, you go round it.
Steve, I think it's an excellent thought, but I don't think it's really within the rules of just a minute was deviating. Right. So I won't charge any points on that, and say Clement keeps the subject. 49 seconds. Health food starting now.
Tofu.
Steve, challenge.
Hesitation.
You've got it, right. Health food, 48 seconds with you, Steve, starting now.
I was walking down this crescent the other day and I saw a health food shop. Just went straight in and decided to buy one of those little wiggly-waggly things you see on the side of roads which don't normally get eaten by human beings. It was, of course, a licorice stick that had been dipped in very warm jelly. This apparently makes you live longer, healthier, and gives you lots of hair. Didn't work for me, but at least I paid decent money for it and got satisfaction from the taste and flavour. Although there was no nutritious value in the aforementioned thing, it made me feel like $1 million. Therefore, it was a health food to me. I went back and bought a whole box full of these things and sent them...
Paul Merton, challenge.
Oh, this is just rubbish, isn't it? Licorice dipped in warm jelly?
You mean to say you've never spoken rubbish on Just a Minute?
Never. Every word I say is true.
So what are you having him from? Deviation?
Well, he said it wasn't very good for him, so it can't be health foods. Deviation.
No, I would have given it to you on the fact that it was devious, the subject was devious. No, it could be. He could have believed it did him a lot of good.
That's the point I was making.
Oh,
yes,
right.
it was the point I was making, yes. So, health food is still with you, Steve. Another point. 6 seconds, starting now.
If you take a packet of cornflakes and tear up all the cornflakes and put them...
Paul challenge.
6 seconds and I said cornflakes.
Yes, cornflakes. And you've got him with 1 second to go, Paul. And you have the subject, health food, repetition of cornflakes, starting now.
Cornflakes.
So Paul Merton's still in the lead, but Steve Frost got points in the round, so he's moved forward. He's now equal to Liza Tarbuck in third place. And Steve, your turn to begin. The subject is parking the car. We've got a lot of motoring subjects in this show, but talk on that one starting now.
Pull up parallel to the car in front, look in the rear view mirror, handbrake on, over your shoulder, take a quick glance, take the aforementioned buzz...
Liza, you challenge.
2 takes.
There were 2 takes, yeah. And I would have had him for deviation too if you hadn't had it before, because how can you park the car with the handbrake on?
I've done that. Took me a while, but I did it. Occasionally I just leave the car.
Liza, anyway, you got a correct challenge on
Thank you.
the other one, on repetition. Parking the cars with you starting now.
Parking the car is becoming increasingly difficult as councils seem to be putting up stupid permit allowances, which is allowing them, thank you very much, to get free money off of us. The council... Oh, I was cross as well.
Paul, you challenge.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes.
After repetition of counsel.
Yes. Sometimes if you keep going with style, they'll overlook your indiscretions. But on this occasion, he picked you up and Paul has got the subject of parking the car. 37 seconds available, starting now.
It was much easier to park your car in 1906 when there were only 35 such vehicles in the British Isles. In those days, all you had to do was just leave it and get out, and it was considered parked by the police, who weren't sleeping and were very much on the job. But I have parked many cars in my brief foray as a motorist. I passed my driving test in 1995, and I was very pleased to do so first time. And since then, I haven't actually owned many motor vehicles, but the ones that I have purchased and driven have been great fun. The way that I park a car is to first of all make sure that I'm in it.
So Paul Merton's dissertation then, he kept going to the whistle when gained an extra point and has increased his lead at the end of the round. And Liza, it's your turn to begin. Cellulite.
Oh, how
That
kind.
is the subject. I don't know why it's been chosen for you, but talk on it if you can, starting
show you later.
now. 60 seconds, Liza, starting now.
Cellulite is the ugly fat that lurks beneath the skin, normally to the rear of a person. Men and women can get cellulite. It looks a sort of like a mountain range, but from a distance, if you see what I mean. Sort of a ranch-type style stuff that you can affix, rather like a conservatory, to the back of your thigh and jog round with it so that it dribbles over your knee. It's not attractive, but I'm sure warmed up and jiggled with the right amount of alcohol down your throat, it could be something of a spectacular occurrence somewhere in the middle of Crewe. I'm now waffling on about Cellulite because I don't know that much about it. Obviously, now I'm going to claim that I've never seen it before in my life, but in women's changing rooms I have seen it, and I've eyed it quite scarily, quite ruefully. And it's something that just occurs to you maybe in your late 30s. I don't know. Maybe it comes earlier. Maybe people are blessed with orange skin, peels...
Well done, Lisa. I have to say, because I do get letters from avid listeners of the show, we all knew that she repeated one or two things, but we enjoyed it so much. We just let her go with style and panache. And you actually went from the start to finish, 60 seconds, so you not only get a point for speaking as the whistle went, you get a bonus point because you were not interrupted. And you're now 1 point behind Clement Freud, but a half a dozen points behind our leader, who is still Paul Merton. And Clement, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is Happy Hour. Tell us something about Happy Hour in just a minute, starting now.
Happy Hour is there to cheer you up. If you should be chronically depressed, there is a new pill on the market, which you don't swallow, but you throw it at people who look happy.
Paul Merton challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was a hesitation, yes. He waited for his laugh, he got it, and thought that was enough. Right, so 47 seconds, Happy Hour with you, Paul, starting now.
Whenever I listen to Just a Minute, that's a happy half hour, and sometimes I listen to 2 programmes, which makes a beautiful happy hour. I listen to the voice of Clement Freud. Who can help but smile when they hear his wonderful, cheery tones coming across the airwaves? Every hour in his company is surely a happy hour. As he gaily walks around, he does the show in the nude, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you're aware of that. And it's a beautiful... He is one of his country's leading naturists. So if you're in India or China listening to this show go out, just picture him now in the nude, his grape nuts resting...
Sorry, you like the nudity, obviously, right. Clement, you challenged.
Nude.
Yes,
right.
There was too much nudity.
Too much nudity.
Yes. But the audience enjoyed it. 16 seconds, Clement. Happy Hour with you, starting now.
It seems to me terribly unfair that bars should say Happy Hour drinks at half price, because no way is it 50% of the cost of a beverage. Only less than...
Steve Frost, you
hesitation, I'm afraid.
There was a hesitation, yes. Steve, you got in with 2 seconds to go on the subject of Happy Hour, starting now.
The wonderful thing about happy hours in bars is that...
So, Steve Frost, speaking of Russell Wend, got a point. He's now equal Liza Tarbuck in 3rd place. They're trailing Clement, and he's just 3 points behind our leader, Paul Merton. So, Liza, it's your turn to begin. Selling out is the subject. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Selling out could, of course, refer to produce in a shop of which you have none left. Or, of course, it could refer to a level of integrity that you have forgotten about or disposed about because of acquiring some money for some sort of service or some such. Selling out. I wonder whether selling out could always be described as a despicable thing. Would one refer to Jeffrey Archer's mate who sold out as being a dreadful thing? I don't know. Would somebody say that selling out of a product... Oh, thank you.
Steve Frost, you're challenged.
Repetition of somebody.
Yes, there's a lot of somebody's there.
Time.
So, Steve, you have selling out, and you have 29 seconds starting now.
I'm used to selling out every time I do my one-man show, because all the tickets get bought, the people come and see it and laugh, and they come back the next time I do it again, which is in the same night, because you make more money that way. This is called selling out in both aspects of...
Paul, you challenged.
Well, he slowed right down, didn't he?
Yes, he did. We interpret that as hesitation. So, Paul, you have 13 seconds to tell us something about selling out starting now.
Of course, you can do both. You can sell out and be sold out, as in you are selling out.
Steve challenged.
I'm going to go for hesitation.
You will get it on hesitation.
Really?
You have 9 seconds. The subject back. Selling out starting now. And Paul...
Hesitation.
Hesitation, you got it back again, Paul. And you've got 7 seconds on selling out, starting now.
I did a 2-week season at the London Palladium in 1995, and I'm very pleased to say that we didn't sell out.
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point and no others in the round. He's moved forward, he's in a strong lead. So we're into the final round, and Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is paying through the nose. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
It's said that the Danes in 9th century Ireland, they were occupying that country at the time, imposed a poll tax that was very unpopular. And if you didn't come up with the goods, then your nose was split in the middle. And this was an indication to other citizens of that fair isle that it wasn't a good idea not to pay. And the Danes took this. Danes twice.
Steve challenge.
Danes
Twice.
Yes, that's right. 40 seconds.
Interesting, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, very interesting, yes.
Was it true?
It is true, yeah. I think so, yeah.
You say it with such conviction, we believe you. Right, Steve, there are 40 seconds. You tell us something about paying through the nose, starting now.
Here you are, mate. Here's 25 quid. That's what it would sound like, obviously, if you paid through the nose. So not many people do it nowadays. You can pay through the ear, but that you can't hear what price the product is that you're buying. So again, if you did put the money up your nose, good place to keep loose change, because the coins keep the nasal passages open, yet blocking them at the same time. If you use one of those currents...
You've been challenged, Steve.
Oh.
Yes.
Hesitation.
Deviation, the lot. I think so. Coins up the nose. You sneeze them out on the counter, do you? Right.
I suppose it's lucky they were up the nose.
Yeah, I don't think we'll pursue that idea for you. Paul, you have 19 seconds. Paying through the nose, starting now.
You have to be very careful if you walk up and down Oxford Street, because you have charlatans who hire empty stores and they decide that they're going to sell you all kinds of things like clock radios or cassette recorders, and they have people around them who bid for these items. You think, oh, that's quite cheap. But when you actually...
So, Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so with others in the round. He's increased his lead. Let me give you the final situation. Steve Frost, who has not played the game as much as the other two, played a bit more than Liza, but he finished in a very strong 4th place, very strong. And Liza finished in an excellent 3rd place. Oh, excellent, marvellous. Clement Freud was in a magnificent 2nd place, and in a... Getting a round of applause for each one of them, aren't I? And an outstanding 1st place was Paul Merton. You're the winner this week, Paul. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 talented players of the game: Paul Merton, Clement Freud, Liza Tarbuck, and Steve Frost. I also thank Janet Staplehurst for helping me with the watch and also playing her whistle so well. And also we thank our director Jones, and we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're very grateful to our audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way so magnificently with such warmth and feeling. Our audience, from the panel and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye until we take to the air once more and play Just a Minute.
And at the same time next week, Just a Minute will be coming from...
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome not only our many listeners in this country, but also throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 talented and exciting players of the game. We're delighted to welcome back that master of ad-lib and improvised comedy, Paul Merton, the mistress of acute observational comedy, Linda Smith, the outrageous leprechaun of comedy, Graham Norton, and the master of erudite comedy, Clement Freud. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Thank you. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And as usual, I'm going to ask the 4 players of the game to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject on the card. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the new theatre in that elegant city of Cardiff, the capital of the great Principality of Wales. And we have before us here a passionate, warm Welsh audience ready to cheer us on our way as we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Oh, Paul, what a lovely subject to begin the show with. Keeping up with the Joneses. Paul, could you talk upon the subject of keeping up with the Joneses? 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
Keeping up with the Joneses means, I suppose, competing with your neighbours. If somebody next door to you gets a red car, then you must buy a deep pink motor. This is known as keeping up with the Joneses, but it begs the question, who do the Joneses keep up with? Because if you're keeping up with them, they must be keeping up with somebody else. Is there a family next to them, the Evans, perhaps, that the Joneses are definitely competing with? They say...
Graham Norton, you have challenged.
No, but I'm a fool.
Well, they laugh when you're fooling.
No, I thought there was another family, but there wasn't another family. They were neighbours before, and then they turned into a family, and I'm
That's right.
I'm trying too hard.
No. It's always nice to hear from you, whether you try too hard or not.
Really?
Yes, it was... it was an incorrect challenge, Paul.
It was.
You get a point for an incorrect challenge. You keep the subject, keeping up with the Joneses. There are 36 seconds available, starting now.
There's a lot of Joneses live in Wales. I should imagine there's quite a few sitting in the audience tonight. Perhaps we could have a quick head count. If your name is Jones, just put your hand up and we'll have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12... 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 31, 42, 56...
Clement, challenge.
Repetition of 1.
Yes, you had 1 to begin with. You did repeat the word 1, yes. So Clement has a point for a correct challenge, and he has 7 seconds to take over the subject.
7 seconds, oh.
Yeah. And the time starts now.
I had 2 aunts called Joan, and keeping up with the Joneses' tortoise was fairly...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And on this occasion, it was Clement Freud, and of course, he's got the most points at the end of that round. Graham Norton, will you take the next round? The subject is therapy. Tell us something about therapy. 60 seconds starting now.
I am very much in favour of therapy because, as my mother always taught me, and I've said it before,
Paul Merton challenge.
Not now!
Repetition, he said it before.
Paul, it's a devious thought, but he didn't actually deviate by saying those words in this particular round.
As I've said before?
Yeah, but he hadn't actually said anything before, other than that. And
I think you were just being picky there.
So, an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
Graham, and you keep the subject, and you have 53 seconds. Therapy starting now.
My favourite form of therapy is physical therapy. This is where you literally try to knock sense into someone with a big stick. Oh, the joy as they lie there on a couch and you have a large bat, beating them into a sort of coma, essentially, and they pay you for the privilege. Ah, the joy of being that thing that...
Linda Smith, you
I think we may have had 2 joys.
Yes, there was too much joy there, yes.
Which is no bad thing, obviously.
Linda, a correct challenge. You have 29 seconds. Tell us something about therapy, starting now.
Therapy is the only form of medicine that the better you get, the more you have to have. So they'll say something like, you're doing ever so well, you better keep coming for another year at 50...
The Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition of better.
You said better, yes, before, yes. Clement, therapy, 18 seconds, starting now.
When my distinguished relative Anna Freud reached her 80th birthday, she got a telegram which said, "The rapists of Philadelphia send their best wishes." It was actually therapists, and the post office woman did not understand the word.
Oh, that brilliant thought of Clement's brought that particular round to an end, and he gained an extra point for speaking, so the whistle went. Anyway, with other points in the round, he's got a strong lead. In fact, he's in the lead with 6 points, and the other 3 have all got 1 apiece. And Linda Smith, your turn to begin. The subject, hedgehogs. Tell us something about hedgehogs in just a minute, starting now.
Hedgehogs have lovely spiky haircuts that look so cute on them and so tragic on Gary Rhodes. I think they're lovely little creatures. They have this spikiness, which I enjoy very much, but must be quite difficult. Hence the question, how do hedgehogs make love? Answer with great caution, and a first aid kit and some Germaline nearby. I would imagine we very rarely see a whole 3-dimensional hedgehog. They're usually flat, sort of hedgehog-shaped table mats on the road. I think they're very much like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca, in that they're very, very... Well, I wonder what that was, that challenge.
Maybe I was listening too carefully there, but...
The audience were living every word with you, Linda. But Graham got in first on the very, very repetition. 18 seconds. Tell us something about hedgehogs, Graham, starting now.
The best thing about hedgehogs is if, as in the lovely book Alice in Wonderland, you play croquet with them as balls, they are not only super things to hit, but also aerate your lawn at the same time. Oh.
So Graham Norton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's now moved into second place. Clement Freud, your turn to begin, and the subject now is my favourite word. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
Rather as one's favourite food changes from time to later on, so my favourite word used to be demobilisation and then became unguent. P.T. Barnum, the great circus man, was acquainted one day of the death of the man who was shot from the cannon and said, "This is grave news. It will be hard to find a man of the same caliber." Now, C-A-L-I-B-R-E is certainly one of my favourite words, as is unguent. Now that...
Linda Smith challenged.
Hardly dare to raise the matter, but there were 2 unguents, which I think is repetition. I may be wrong. I was only half listening.
Right, Linda, 22 seconds on my favourite word, starting now.
My favourite word depends very much on the context of its use. For example, is the bar open? My favourite word there would be yes. It is open for drinks.
Oh, Clement challenge.
Oh.
Yes, you got back. There were 2 opens, and the bar was 2 open. Obviously, your thirst was not quenched. Right, 10 seconds. My favourite word, Clement, starting now.
Lascivious is now my favourite word, as is goose liver truffle.
Paul challenged.
Well, you can't have... You've said lascivious is your favourite word now, as is goose liver truffle. Well, they can't all be your favourite word. You only have one favourite word.
Well, as is goose liver truffle next week.
Yeah.
Well...
No.
We can't play the game on what your favourite word's going to be next week, Clement.
No. Paul,
Anarchy would rule.
I agree with you, Paul. No,
Nicholas, he's talking nonsense, isn't he?
I know, absolutely, yes. But they
favourite
always
word
struggle.
next week?
You all struggle to justify what you've just said. So, Paul, a correct challenge. And you've got 2 seconds to tell us something about my favourite word, starting now.
My favourite word, and has been since 19...
So Paul Merton spoke, where's the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal in second place to Graham Norton. They're just trailing Clement Freud, and they're just ahead of Linda Smith. Graham, your turn to begin. The subject, rugby. That is a passion in Wales. And they've got that wonderful Millennium Stadium there where the great events take place. But yes... Right, that was a sport at which I excelled when I was young, and I still love watching it. But Graham, tell us something about rugby, starting now.
I was quite surprised at school when I had to play rugby to discover that this thing called sport actually hurts. Where's the fun in that? I know Wales is very good at it, but you excel at other things.
Paul Challenge.
Well, you said Wales is very good at rugby. Are you talking about now or sort of... Oh, in the glorious past?
It's sort of in their blood, I'm sensing.
I think you've established what you were saying, and I think Paul was extremely brave to make that particular remark, because thank goodness there's a rail preventing the audience coming up on the stage. But an incorrect challenge, Graham. Carry on with rugby, and 43 seconds starting now.
Good people, you are excellent at singing and digging. Why not do them when you fancy a bit of outdoor activity? Perhaps get a spade, a big hole, and then yee-haw, a lovely chanty.
Yee-haw, a lovely chanting tune.
That's what I said, fluently.
So which challenge do you want?
Well, it's a bit deviation.
That was deviation, but yes, I thought you were hesitation. Right. You've got the subject, Paul. You have 27 seconds. It's rugby, starting now.
We only have to take our minds back to the 1970s. Barry John, Gareth Edwards, Phil Bennett. Let's now have a moment's silence while we think about them.
Clement Freud challenge.
Hesitation.
He said, let's have a moment's silence, but he didn't even have the moment.
No.
You came in before the moment had even started.
Yes.
If a moment's silence is not hesitation.
A moment's silence is a hesitational type thought, but he didn't actually hesitate.
Let's start writing this down. I think it's going to be good.
As I keep saying, we're working in the realms of sound. It's what he says. He didn't actually hesitate. 15 seconds, still with rugby, still with you, Paul, starting now.
The Cardiff Millennium Stadium has been mentioned, and what a magnificent structure it is. Why, even the English FA saw fit to carry the final there instead of Wembley, which is currently undergoing refurbishment, or demolition, as I prefer to think of it.
So, Paul, you rehabilitated yourself with this audience with your other comments about some of the greats of Welsh rugby there. And you've now taken the lead ahead of Clement Freud and Graham Norton and Linda Smith in that order. And, Linda, your turn to begin. The subject is pear-shaped. Tell us something about pear-shaped in just a minute, starting now.
Pear-shaped is an expression people use when something has gone horribly wrong in any kind of way. For example, the Jeffrey Archer trial, from that man's point of view, went pear-shaped really quite early in the proceedings. And I cannot help but feel for poor Mary, his wife, because now that he's in prison, she'll have to see him on a regular basis, which is not... really how they have conducted their union so far, and one can understand why. Pear-shaped is a strange shape to choose as something that is bad, because pear-shaped is a lovely shape, I think. A better fruit to choose to denote disaster would be the star fruit. What on earth is that? It's a mess. It tastes of nothing. It looks scary.
So Linda Smith started with the subject, went with style and panache, and finished with the subject. 60 seconds. Hasn't happened for quite a while, Linda.
I've just hit on the right combination of drugs, Nicholas.
Right. Well, you not only get a point for speaking when the whistle went, but you get a bonus point for not having been interrupted. And you went magnificently, but you're still in third place. That's what's so unfair about this show. You contribute so much and you get so few points. But anyway, Linda, well done. Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject that has been thought of for you is Anne Robinson. I can see why they're given the subject to you, because it was on your programme, you know.
It's a bit early for pantomime, isn't it?
My God, and she's in the audience too. There we are. Paul, the subject is Anne Robinson. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Well, she's known for hosting a show called The Weakest Link, and she did appear on a programme of mine earlier this year called Room 101, and she did criticise the Welsh in a very heavy manner. Normally when we have guests on that programme, I usually have lunch with them beforehand and we discuss the topics. We didn't do it on this occasion as she didn't have time, and so I had no idea really what she was going to say. It's true, I didn't.
Linda challenged.
Oh, just to save a lynching, really.
But have you got a challenge?
Yeah, he hesitated.
He did actually hesitate, yes.
I didn't know what she was going to say.
Yes, I think so. So, will you tell us...
I'd have told her not to say it.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I would have done. No, I would have done.
Absolutely. Well, you love the Welsh, I know.
Yeah.
I know that. It's one of your passions. So, Linda, he did hesitate, so 34 seconds. Tell us something about Anne Robinson, starting now.
Anne Robinson is very ignorant and stupid, I think. I've heard her on The Weakest Link, a show mentioned early, and no wonder people get the questions wrong.
Graham Norton challenged.
The show mentioned early.
I thought I said earlier.
Yeah, I think
From being very close to you. Very close.
Close.
Really, not as close to your mouth to your ear,
No.
but very, very close.
I was on the other side of her, and I thought I heard earlier.
Did
so,
you?
yes, I don't think it was...
Did you? I wouldn't argue with you.
Any. Right, so Anne Robinson
Livid.
still with you. I should explain to our listeners that Graham Norton's mobile face is working overtime at the moment. And our audience are enjoying it here, but it's not great radio, but at least if you know what's happening, I'm sure you can visualize it in China and India and South Africa and all the other places.
If Graham has a mobile face, does it stop working when he walks under bridges?
So, Linda, I didn't think you deviated there. So, Anne Robinson is still with you. I don't know whether you want her or not, but it's there are 24 seconds available starting now.
The ginger-haired, sour-faced Anne Robinson, who has an expression on her mush pretty similar to the one on Graham's at the moment, but one of bitterness and contempt. As I say, she mispronounces things all the time on The Weakest Link. Not that I watch very often.
Graham Norton challenged.
Oh, yeah, no, this is right. I'm right now. Weakest link, repetition
I'm sorry. She didn't use the weakest link.
She did.
It was Paul who said the weakest
She
link.
did, because that was the whole thing about the early thing. Weakest link mentioned... Oh, she...
I must explain to our listeners.
No, don't.
Please. I have
Don't
got to.
know.
Graham got so carried away and gesticulated so magnificently, he knocked his glass of water flying right across the table. But Graham, you have got a correct challenge.
I don't deserve it.
No.
Look at the mess.
I only tried to generate fun there because I knew you'd get passionate and do something outrageous, which you've done. Okay. But she did repeat weakest link. Okay. And you've got Anne Robinson. 7 seconds starting now.
Essentially, Anne Robinson is God's revenge on America. Yes, they got quite smug there for a while.
One thing I'm certain of, Anne Robinson will never want to be a guest on Just a Minute.
Not in Cardiff, anyway.
No, so Graham Norton was speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's equal in third place with Linda Smith. They're just behind Clement Freud, and he's not far behind our leader, Paul Merton. And Graham, your turn to begin. The subject, castles. Tell us something about castles in Just a Minute, starting now.
Castles are places people lived in until they received their first gas bill and realized...
Paul Merton is challenged.
Well, very slight elongation and hesitation.
Yes, I don't know what he was trying to say, but we'll interpret his hesitation. Paul, 50 seconds on castles, starting now.
They do seem to be rather romantic places, but as Graham, I think, was suggesting there, they must have been quite uncomfortable in the winter. No windows to speak of, drafty holes all over the place. They do sort of survive as ruins, apart from the royal family. I'm not talking about them being in a sort of ruinous state, but the houses and castles...
Linda challenge.
Just a touch of hesitation.
Yes, there was an definite there.
Was.
32 seconds, Linda. Tell us something about castles, starting now.
Castles are places you're dragged round by your mum and dad as a sort of educational treat. Well, there isn't much pleasure for a kid to be called a...
Graham Norton challenge.
That was hesitation.
That was hesitation,
Yes.
Graham. So you got castles back. You have 22 seconds. Tell us more about them, starting now.
Castles can be practical places, though, particularly if you're someone like Errol Flynn, say. For God knows he couldn't have done much swashbuckling in my mother's lounge without breaking her lovely collection of Royal Doulton figurines. And as for swinging through the louvered French windows, sure, he'd never have landed on that coffee table from that distance. I like castles very much.
So the scoring system is getting very close. Graham Norton then speaking as the whistle went up with other points in the round as well. He's now moved forward. He's equal with Clement Freud in second place. They're only 2 points ahead of Linda Smith. They're all trailing Paul Merton just a little. Linda, your turn to begin. The subject, thunder and lightning. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Thunder and lightning are usually bracketed together like Sex and Violence or Richard and Judy. Pairs like of that nature. My mum used to say when it thundered that was God moving his furniture around. So I suppose lightning was God plugging in a...
Paul challenge.
There is only one God.
I wasn't suggesting a break from monotheism there. I was just saying that she suggested when he was doing that, I mean, God can do everything at once, can't he? He's omnipresent.
Yes, but you did repeat the word God.
Did I?
Yes.
You did.
But can you say it too many times?
Yes.
In just a minute, you can. So, Paul, the correct challenge, 43 seconds. Thunder and lightning, starting now.
It was one of the Strausses in Vienna that wrote the Thunder and Lightning Polka, and it's very, very exciting.
Graham.
What am I doing? There was hesitation there.
It was hesitation, yes. 38 seconds. Thunder and lightning, back with you, starting now.
Thunder and lightning are very extremely frightening. Ooh, to look out of the window and see those things in the sky.
Linda challenge.
Thank you.
Linda, he seems grateful, but what did you
Yes, it
challenge
was
for?
just his pleading eyes, really.
He was pleading, but he didn't actually do anything wrong
It
with
was
the
like
rules of
Battersea
just a minute.
Dogs Home, really. Help me.
Yes, it did look a little bit like that. But you didn't actually hesitate or repeat anything or deviate. So 30 seconds, thunder and lightning, starting now.
I well remember, no, I do, being in the south of France, a small town called L'Île-Jourdain, not far from Toulouse. It was a happy summer. Oh, how we laughed. That was the summer we smiled and giggled like school
Paul
kids.
Tunch.
We haven't got to Thunder and Lightning yet.
No. I
Bit of a build-up. You know
Yes.
how it gets. The clouds are gathering.
Yes.
I'm saying about 4 o'clock.
Yes. But in just a minute, you have to establish the subject much quicker
Sorry,
than that. You don't
I-
apologise, because
No,
they
no,
love
no,
it.
really.
And they love you in the show.
It was shameless.
And that's why we... And Paul, correct challenge. 15 seconds. Thunder and lightning, starting now.
They are two extremes of weather that normally do go together, and that wasn't meant to rhyme, but somehow it did. I have a facility for that kind of thing. I'm a poet, and I don't know it. Thunder and lightning. What could conjure up the... Oh, thank God for that.
Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of that round, and we're moving into the final round in this show. I think it was worth more than that, actually.
I've seen the show now.
We have a situation where we had 3 people almost equal in second place, Graham Norton, Linda Smith and Clement Freud. Only 1 point separates the 3 of them. But a little way ahead, by 4 or 5 points, is Paul Merton. But Clement Freud begins the last round. It still could be anybody's game in points, but we don't know. Let's find out as Clement talks about leeks. It's Welsh, it's other things, and it is 60 seconds starting now.
Leeks are a traditional Welsh vegetable, I think wonderfully well served, undercooked with olive oil and chopped chives. The Scots have a soup called cocky leeky, which you would think would be a slightly incontinent condition, but is in fact a chicken broth with leeks and prunes. It's very odd to have those dried plums in a consommé such as that. Leeks, Mari Tempest used to talk about with tremendous candour.
Paul Merton challenge.
Was that a hesitation?
It was a hesitation, yes. 21 seconds, Paul. Tell us something about leeks starting now.
I once had a leak in my parents' bedroom, and it was something that needed a plumber to come round and have a look at it. And they'd gone out to church, and I didn't know what to do, so I phoned up this number in the book, and a man came round, and luckily he was somebody who was skilled in the plumbing art, so otherwise I wouldn't have spoken to him. But he was brilliant, because within seconds, if not minutes, he had literally transformed.
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, brought that round to an end, got an extra point for doing so and increased his lead. And the final situation is that Clement Freud, Graham Norton and Linda Smith are all equal. Well, 1 point's different between them, it doesn't really matter. But out in the lead, yes, almost doubling the score of the others, was Paul Merton. So Paul, we say you are our winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to our 4 outstanding players of the game. I also thank Janet Staplehurst for helping me with the score and blowing her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds was up. And we are grateful to our producer and director, that is Claire Jones. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, but we are deeply indebted to our audience here at the New Theatre in Cardiff for the warmth and passion they've shown as they've cheered us on our way. So from our audience in Wales and from our panel and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Till then, goodbye. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure not only to welcome our many listeners throughout the world, but also to welcome to the show this week 4 clever, brilliant, witty, and experienced players of this game who are going to pit their wits and show their verbal ingenuity and their comic inventiveness as they talk for just a minute on a subject they give them, and they try and do it without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 exciting people are Jenny Eclair, Ross Noble, Graham Norton, and Clement Freud. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Pleasance at the Festival Fringe in Edinburgh, and before us we have a really hyped-up Fringe audience ready to cheer us on our way as we begin the show this week with Ross Noble. And Ross, the subject, the cleverest person I know. Will you talk on that for 60 seconds if you can, starting now?
I don't really hang around with intellectuals, but I do have a friend that can peel a banana with his feet. I know you wouldn't exactly think that that was necessarily clever, but, you know, he can put it into his mouth and really does perform a little bit like a monkey. Of course, the chimpanzees are the most intelligent of all the apes, and therefore they would be judged as being the most intelligent.
Clement Freud challenged.
Repetition of most intelligent.
Yes, the subject is the cleverest person I know, and he's mentioned most, so repetition. So, Clement, you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, and you take over the subject, and you have 39 seconds available on the cleverest person I know, starting now.
Clever is no longer the good word it used to be. Perhaps the cleverest person I know is the one who's made the most of limited ability. And Jeffrey Archer, There's a man who has only limited ability.
Why, you groan. It's part of the rules. Jenny Eclair, you challenged
I
first.
only pressed my buzzer, Clement, because you said... Oh, I've forgotten what he said twice now.
Limited.
Limited. That was it, limited. You were talking about someone with limited ability.
That's
I
right,
think
you
I
did.
caught limited ability.
You did? He
Yes.
did repeat the word limited.
Yes, he did.
Yes. A correct challenge. He did repeat limited. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject, which is the cleverest person I know, and there are 20 seconds available starting now.
The cleverest person I know is my boyfriend because he's managed to keep me by his side for 18 years despite stiff competition from thousands of other men, and I mean that literally. Oh, he can put up shelves, drive cars very fast down motorways, and...
Graham Norton, you challenged.
Apparently he can't do anything else. Bit of a pause there.
I was having to think quite hard.
What else can he do?
I was going to say he knows a lot about battleships, but then that made me depressed. And I stopped talking.
He obviously knows about the important things, Jenny, and Graham got in, so we've heard from everybody on this first round, which is exciting. And Graham, you got in, you have a correct challenge, a point, of course, and you've got in cleverly with only 3 seconds to go. And it's the cleverest person I know, Graham, starting now.
Scotland's own Kirsty Young is surely the brightest person on the whole...
Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point in this game, and on this occasion it was Graham Norton. So Graham, at the end of that first round, has got a commanding lead over all the rest.
Of 1 point.
How did that happen?
Jenny, Claire, your turn to begin. And the subject is my beauty regime. 60 seconds starting now.
My beauty regime consists of cleanse, tone and moisturise every night unless I can't be bothered, in which case I wipe it all off on the pillow and remove the dribble in the morning. The products I use range from the cheap, i.e. cooking oil, which is good for flexibility of the face, and the sublime, like the secretions of albino bats from Nepal. Oh, yes. When you've put your base on, I favour a nice, thick orange pan stick and heavy powder, because the trick to makeup is more equals better. I love makeup, the way it makes... Yes, I said
Graham
makeup
Norton
twice.
Yeah, no, he did say it twice.
Yes, I should have said cosmetics, shouldn't I?
That would have been good.
I should have had a thesaurus here.
But Jenny, you went for 34 seconds.
I could have won.
Anyway,
Dad might have given you some random points, and
Graham,
but he still will.
you challenged. Another point to you and the subject. Let us hear, with 26 seconds available, about my beauty regime, starting now.
My beauty regime is harsh but effective. For instance, who could have guessed that I actually went to school with Nicholas Parsons? Yes, my exfoliation cream, and I use that word carefully, because I don't do that. I actually scruff, because I buy beauty products for men. Yes, they are masculine. I didn't know I could sound like this, but apparently I can when I'm in Scotland.
So Graham Norton was again speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And with other points in the round, he's just increased his lead. And Clement, your turn to begin. And the subject now is braces. Tell us something about braces in this game starting now.
Braces is 4 or more grouse shot in pairs, or things that hold up your trousers, and you can choose whichever, depending on the time of year. Glorious 12th of August.
Ross Noble challenge.
Deviation, because surely you can't hold up your trousers with live grouse.
It's a lovely thought.
I'm not a hunting man, but you know.
We love the thought that you sort of threw into the show. We'll give you a bonus point for that. But he wasn't within the rules of just a minute actually deviating. In fact, I think he made it clear that they were not connected. But so, Clement, you have the benefit of the doubt. You have the subject, still another point, of course. 46 seconds available. Braces starting now.
Braces is an awfully good thing to give people as Christmas presents or for their weddings, engagements, hangings, funerals, and especially festivals of the church. I would recommend that they be made of elastic and have holes for 4 buttons, which tend to be attached to nether garments, such as they keep up. But to go back to sporting birds.
Jenny, Eclair challenge.
Oh, I'm guessing here, but did you say birds? No, you didn't. OK, Clement, I'm really sorry.
Well, yes. Can I challenge then? I think you repeated 4.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
4 birds, 4 buttons.
You can have it if you want.
Should we share it? Should we do it together?
All right, then. As one lad.
All right, Jenny, a retrospective. I hadn't said anything before you changed your mind, so I'm entitled to accept the other challenge. So you have another point, you have braces, you have 15 seconds, starting now.
My daughter's just about to have braces put on, courtesy of the National Health. Hurrah. When I was a teenager, I was also attached to braces.
Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition of catamaran.
Oh, yes, you're right.
I think that's a sort of sour grapes challenge, isn't it? I've got a challenge on anything. Right. Clement, you made a point and the audience enjoyed it, so I'll be generous and give you that bonus point, which I've already given one to Ross. But, Jenny, you interrupted. You get a point for that. You keep the subject, and there are 7 seconds available. Braces starting now.
An orthodontist named Mr. Clifford in Liverpool put my braces on, and every time I visited him, the...
Clement Freud challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
No, her daughter's braces.
No, I'm also talking about my braces.
No, you hadn't.
No, I did. I said when I was a teenager, I also had braces attached.
Jenny, it's all right. You did say that.
Yes.
I was listening.
It was just after that bit about the catamaran.
Yes. We admire your dedication to getting points, Clement, but in this case, I disagree. 1 second is still available for you, Jenny, with another point. Braces starting now.
I wore my braces on the catamaran.
So Jenny Eclair was then speaking as the whistle went and gained an extra point for doing so, and she's moved forward. She's now actually in the lead.
That's never happened before. Yes!
She's 1 ahead of Graham Norton, 3 ahead of Ross Noble, and 4 ahead of Clement Freud in that order. And Ross, your turn to begin. The subject, topiary. Tell us something about... Why should you laugh? Just because his hair looks like something that needs topiaring. Oh, I'm going to get it now, aren't I?
I knew it was a mistake not wearing a tie.
Ross, topiary is the subject. Talk about it. 60 seconds starting now.
Topiary is the process of clipping hedges into different shapes. Sometimes tramps like to sit underneath the said bushes and...
Graham, you challenge first.
A bit of a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. So you've got topiary, and you have 42 seconds, and you start now.
Topiary is a hobby of mine. Because I have a lot of body hair, I find it very useful on the shoulders. On the left one, I have a hen and 3 chicks, clipped out of some rather mousy curly hair. Where on the right, I have the outline of St. Paul's Cathedral. These prove fascinating gifts, really, on a beach holiday. People come up and chat, take pictures, hug me, which I like, and things like that.
Jenny challenged.
God.
Jenny Eclair, you challenged.
I was just helping him.
Why?
He gave me a look as if to say, please, I don't know what else to say. And
I've had that look since the beginning.
it was
And you feel
the
he was-
ramblings of the mad.
Yes,
And he was
and-
hesitating and deviating. And
Darling, go for 1, please, because he wasn't hesitating. He was deviating.
Deviating.
Yes.
He was talking about wanting to be hugged on beaches. I don't think this is suitable for Radio 4.
He had got away from topiary, I agree. So you have a deviation, and you have 17 seconds available for you to tell us more about topiary, starting now.
If you drive from South East London, Camberwell, to this ice rink in Streatham and past Norwood, I forgot where I live.
Ross challenge.
hesitation.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
I was rubbish.
Stumble, we
Yeah.
interpret
And
this.
you can't actually go to Norwood through...
I know, I forgot.
Yeah. How did she do that?
Ross-
What secret road have you got?
I got lost. I forgot where I lived. Can we hear more of your story about the tramp sitting under the topiary? No.
Well, it's
long
his
as
turn. It's his
Yeah.
turn to take it. Jenny, do you want to run the show for a bit? Or...
No.
What do you mean? Oh, you do want her to do it, right. Right. Correct challenge, Ross. And you have Topiary, and you have 11 seconds starting now.
An easier way to create the same effect is to simply take objects and stick leaves to them. Why not get yourself an old steam train and using glue, apply foliage and park it outside?
So Ross Noble was then speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. He's moved forward. He's equal with Graham Norton. They're both 1 point behind our leaders, still Jenny Eclair, and Clement Freud is just behind them. And Jenny, it's your turn to begin. The subject is men with moustaches. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Men with moustaches are usually either gay or policemen who don't understand that if they have a moustache, they look quite homosexual. My favourite moustaches are those twirly Salvador Dali ones, but then I have an unhealthy obsession with circus ringmasters, which I need to go and see a doctor about. Women who have moustaches aren't really socially acceptable.
Graham Norton challenge.
That has to be deviation.
No.
On so many levels. You asked her to talk about men with moustaches.
Yes, but Graham, was talking about men with moustaches, and he just put out that one sentence, women with moustaches. She could have gone off to compare them with men with moustaches. So she hadn't actually had a chance to properly deviate.
Though if I'd had a chance with the ringmaster to deviate, I'd have deviated.
So, no, I must be fair. Within the rules of just a minute, she continues with men with moustaches. 42 seconds, Jenny. Another point, of course, as well. Starting now.
Frida Kahlo, the Spanish...
Graham, yes.
Still talking about women with moustaches.
Jenny, I think you should have made the comparison much sooner. This time... Graham, you have the subject, you have the correct challenge. 40 seconds available. You tell us something about men with moustaches, starting now.
A man's moustache can tell you a lot about the person. For instance, what he had for lunch. Was there a nice head on his lager? Or even, does he have a cold? It does seem unfortunate. It's radio, it's a visual medium. Now, it does... Oh, I'm saying something again.
Last challenge.
There was a little bit of deviation there.
Yes, it was indeed. Right, so you have the subject. You have 24 seconds are still available. Men with moustaches, Ross, with you starting now.
One of the good things about being a man with a moustache is the fact that you can use it when thinking, able to twiddle it as Hercule Poirot did when he was trying to tell people who the murderer was. This tends not to work as well if you've got a massive beard, because you have to run your fingers through it. A lot of people think that men with moustaches are quite sexy. For example, Tom Selleck.
Clement Freud challenge.
Hesitation?
Yes, there was an there.
Oh, was there?
Yes, you put an in. And we call that hesitation.
Was it me? Or did somebody walk past? Erring as they went.
No. Clement, you've got in with 2 seconds to go.
Oh.
And it's all right. It's within the rules of just a minute. And you have men with moustaches. 2 seconds, starting now.
In 2 seconds.
Ross challenge.
I think there was a slight just under his... just under his breath. It was very small, but it wasn't.
You're sitting next to him. I should explain to our listeners that I have 2 on my right, which is Ross and Clement, and 2 on my left, which is Jenny and Graham. So you now have the picture. And Ross is maintaining he heard him say under his breath. He didn't. You, Clement...
It's just being mischievous.
Yes. And that's all part of the game. So 1 second, Clement, on men with moustaches, starting now.
Upper lips.
Clement Freud, King of the Whistle Went, has now leapt forward. He's still in 4th place, but he's only 1 point behind Graham Norton and Ross Noble, and he's only 2 points behind leader Jenny Eclair. They're very close, actually, but which is delightful, isn't it? And in every sense of the word, they're very close. They bond wonderfully. And Graham,
right.
It's your turn to begin.
What?
The subject is ways to save energy. 60 seconds to tell us something about that subject, starting now.
I am thrilled to be able to take this minute to share with you some of my energy-saving ideas. Turning on the oven just to bake 1 potato? No! That is so wasteful. Far better to take said object, wrap it in a damp tea towel, leave it for a week. By then...
Clement Freud challenge.
Deviation, you can't put an oven into a damp tea cloth.
Well, this is one of those impossible decisions because I know what Graham was conveying, but if you want to take the logic of his words, Clement is right. So it's how you interpret it. What I might do now is, which I sometimes do, I look at this very intelligent and wise audience and say, you be the final judges. And if you agree with Clement's challenge, you cheer for him. And if you disagree with it, you boo for him. And you all do it together now. All right, that's enough. That's enough. You don't keep it up for the rest of the show. I mean, I would say the first impact I got was a boo. They feel you have the benefit of the doubt, Graham, and you continue with ways to save energy starting now.
Ways to save energy are numerous. I can think of some, but a lot of them are quite secret.
Ross, challenge.
It was definitely an ohm.
There was an ohm, yes, because he thought of some.
No, I was meditating. It's very good.
Oh.
It's slowing down the metabolic rate, you see.
We can see from
Is
the
meditation allowed within the rules?
I think it is.
Okay, fair enough.
I think
You'll go om.
Om. Fine.
Graham,
okay.
I saw the expression that came over your face. It was quite lascivious, and so I realised that...
Lascivious?
Yes, and so I agree with Ross.
I don't understand it, but I'd be offended.
Yes. So you did hesitate. You had a little private moment of thrill there and hesitated. And Ross, you have 37 seconds to tell us something about ways to save energy starting now.
A good way to save energy is to move to the North Pole. That way the days last 6 months and you never have to turn your lights on. Of course, the nights are also longer.
Yes, Clement?
I'm sorry, he said nights and not lights.
Yes, he said night one time. And
Sorry.
nights. Yes, he did. Well,
probably.
no.
No, point to him.
No, point to
Several
him. No, we enjoy generosity and sharp listening. There, 33 seconds for you still, Ross.
Sorry, I started meditating.
Ways to save energy starting now.
Another good way to save energy is to simply sit around the house in your pants, not moving whatsoever. That way, as you sit, that's it twice.
Clement
I'm a
challenged.
fool.
Repetitive way.
Yes, because you did say the subject on the card is ways to save energy, and you said way before.
And I said sit. You could have had 2 points
He's
there.
got you on way. Graham, Clement, you've got in on ways to save energy. You have 17 seconds starting now.
There was a man who came to reception of the hotel where I'm staying who explained that his company...
Jenny, challenge.
Man who explained. Who, two who's, who, and who again.
Jenny, it's starting to look like an owl. Is it bad?
But am I right in thinking...
Yes, you do. He did repeat who. So you have 8 seconds. Tell us something about ways to save energy starting now.
On show days, I save energy by lying under the duvet, gently smoking... Sorry.
Ross challenge.
There was a bit of a hesitation.
No, I should think so. It was the
and
most
there was
devious thought I
deviation
could
on the
possibly
way
think
as
of.
well.
How many duvets have you set alight? Ross, you've got him with 3 seconds to go on ways to save energy starting now.
I once sat under a burning duvet, and the problem with that was it was very...
Ross Noble speaking as a whistle Wayne again, the extra point, and the situation keeps moving from round to round. Ross Noble has now taken the lead ahead of Graham Norton and then Jenny Eclair and Clement Freud equal in third place. And Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is Scotch. Tell us something about that wonderful subject in this game starting now.
The people north of the border are quite particular on whether to say Scottish or Scotch. And Scotch appears to be reserved for whisky, mist, and corner, perhaps other geographical locations also. I'm really very fond of this country and have close family ties with it because my wife's people came from Watford. Scotch whisky is perhaps the best-known Scotch.
Jenny Eclair.
Repetition of whiskey.
No, he said Scotch then, love. The
Oh,
best-known
sorry,
Scotch.
I went deaf. And just guessed.
No, he said the best-known Scotch then, not the best-known whiskey.
Oh, I apologise, Clement.
Yeah, don't apologise.
No,
he just gets
I'll
another
take
point.
that apology
He's
back.
thrilled. He's delighted. So he gets another point, and he has 29 seconds to continue on Scotch starting now.
At the location called Scotch on the border between England and Scotland, there is a cafeteria which specialises in Scotch bacon sandwiches, which I would recommend to you, especially if the pork meat smoked comes from Aberdeen, which is an excellent, wholly, truly wonderful place from which pork meat should come.
Getting challenged.
Pork.
I know, thank God you challenged. I mean, Jenny, you've got in cleverly with 3 seconds to go on Scotch, starting now.
Hopscotch is a good game to play if all you've got is a pavement and a piece of chalk.
Still a very close call. Jenny Eclair got another point. Speaking as a whistle went, another point. She now moved forward second place, just behind Ross Noble. But then just behind them equal are Clement, Freud and Graham Norton. We are moving, actually, into the final round. It's very, very close, actually, because Clement Freud is just in fourth place, just behind Graham Norton. And he's only 2 points behind equal leaders as we go into this final round, which is Ross Noble and Jenny Eclair. Isn't it exciting?
Like you care.
I'm going to crack under the pressure.
The subject, Graham, is ageism. A good subject. I've suffered from it in my time up here. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Ageism is a lovely, simple way to hate people. You don't have to think of a reason. You just look at them and you dinny like their age.
Jenny challenged.
He went stupid, basically.
I
He repeated age, you'd say age, and gaga like a baby.
didn't. No.
What did he do wrong, Ross?
He didn't do anything wrong.
I did nothing wrong.
He regularly does do things which are wrong, but
He did
in this
like
In
Graham.
that instance, I didn't.
he didn't. Oh, they're so keen. This is wonderful.
mate.
No, he didn't disobey any of the rules for just a minute. And Graham got a point then, because it was an incorrect challenge, so he's John Ross one ahead. There are 51 seconds available, Graham. Ageism starting now.
You could hate old people because they give crap presents at Christmas.
Ross, challenge, yes.
Was it hate? Did he say hate before?
Well listened, I so did.
And what I like is the fact there was no flicker of naughtiness on your face at all.
The natural honesty of the players is wonderful. Ross, you've got him with 47 seconds on ageism starting now.
I think one of the finest examples of ageism is not allowing babies to ride motorcycles. I mean, sure, they enjoy the buggies, but they'd much prefer to sit on a Triumph Speed Triple and fly around the place. Strictly speaking, it's impossible to fly on a motorcycle, but there would be...
Graham Norton challenge.
Oh, I could be wrong. Repetition of motorcycle.
Yes,
was, yeah.
indeed.
And no motorcycles to ride
Yeah, but you did repeat fly as well, didn't you?
Because it's a short word, I didn't want to say that.
So you, Graham, you've got him with 30 seconds to go on ageism starting now.
I can detest young people because of their...
Clement, yes.
Is it?
Hesitation's right. Clement, you have ageism. 26 seconds starting now.
I think of all the isms I dislike, landlordism is worst.
Jenny Shannon.
Well, I think he's deviating because we're meant to be talking about ageism and he started talking about landlordism.
Yes, I agree with that one. So you have ageism.
Of all the isms, one of the isms is ageism. And I've spoken for 5 seconds.
In fairness, Jenny...
In this game, you started off about landlordism, and I think once you establish...
No, I started off with of all the isms.
But I didn't think that the subject
Jenny.
matter was of all the isms. I can't see that on your card.
Right.
Jenny, I'd back off. You're looking really unattractive now.
I'm being too needy. I don't want to play this game anymore. No, Clement, you can have the ball back.
Yes. He's got the ball back. Right. 21 seconds, ageism with you, Clement, starting now.
The law is very keen on ageism in that it allows you to be 16 before you have sex, 18 in order to vote, 21 for taking out a mortgage.
Last challenge.
It was about to deviate.
Right, so hesitation. 9 seconds on ageism with you, Ross. Starting. Ross, start now.
Oh, starting now? Well, I think ageism...
Graham, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, sir. Graham, a correct challenge. You've got 7 seconds. Tell us about ageism, starting now.
I love ageism. I think
Clement Freud challenged.
He hasn't mentioned ageism. Not by the time I buzz.
Clement a bonus point. Graham, you get a point for being interrupted, and you have the subject still. 6 seconds on ageism starting now.
Ageism is rife in the workplace, ladies and gentlemen, and must be stopped. Some of our grey-haired friends...
Well, as I said, it was to be the last round, and indeed it is, and now give me the final situation, because it was extremely close, and their contributions are so wonderful. I hate to have to say someone was in fourth place, but it was only 1 point behind the second place. That was Clement Freud in fourth place, working upwards, then Jenny Eclair, and then just above Ross Noble, and 2 points behind Graham Norton. Out in the lead, we say, you are the winner this week, Graham! Thank you. So it only remains for me to say thank you to our 4 delightful and humorous players of the game, which is Ross Noble, Graham Norton, Jenny Eclair, and Clement Freud. I'm also grateful to Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me keep the score. She'd blown her whistle delightfully when the 60 seconds was up. And also we're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this delightful game. And we are very grateful to our lovely audience here at the Pleasance, at the Festival Fringe, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, from our panel, goodbye until we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my infinite pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world, but also to welcome to the show this week 4 delightful, exciting, and eager players of this game. 3 of them have played it with great style and panache in the past, and that is Graham Norton and Ross Noble and Clement Freud, and someone who's never played the game before. It's a pleasure also to welcome Charles Collingwood. Would you please welcome all 4 of them? As usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Pleasance at the Festival Fringe in Edinburgh. As we begin the show this week with Clement Freud. Clement, the subject is how to remember people's names. You have 60 seconds as usual, and you start now.
How to remember people's names presupposes that you have forgotten their names. So a very good idea is to go up to someone and say, "Are you Neil Hamilton?" The likelihood is that they will infinitely explain exactly who they are, and then you will know. My friend Robert Morley used to say, when he was unable to place someone, "Do you ever go back, dear?" And it's extraordinary how often someone... I said someone before.
I know. Graham Norton, you challenged.
Do you know, I have a funny feeling he said someone before.
Yes, he did. He generously drew attention to it. So, Graham, you have a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, which is how to remember people's names. There are 30 seconds available, and you start now.
At parties, a very useful thing I find in remembering people's names is to bring with you a small, portable tattoo kit. Then, as people reveal their identities, simply place that thing on their forehead. The needles are also handy for picking up cocktail sausages or small bits of cheese, because often people don't provide enough toothpicks. Call me whiny, but I do find it irritating, particularly when you don't even remember the name of the person who's holding the party, so you can't complain.
So, Graham Norton, speaking as the whistle went, gains an extra point, and anybody speaking at that moment gets those extra points, and with other points in the round. In fact, he's the only one to have scored any points in that round, and he went for 30 seconds on that subject. And, Graham, it's your turn to begin, actually, and the subject I have in front of me is what I wear under my kilt. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
What I wear under my kilt is shrouded in mystery and a thick layer of dust. I find it an odd thing, the kilt, and what is worn under it? Because it's always implied that...
Charles Collingwood challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, we interpret that as hesitation. He stumbled, Charles, so you've got in with a correct challenge, and you have 45 seconds. So your first attempt in just a minute. Go on it. What I wear under my kilt, starting now.
I once received a letter from a man in Scotland asking me if I would travel up and play cricket for him. I was happy to do this until he said in his letter...
The audience enjoy it so much when you make mistakes, they clap every one of them.
Well, they'll enjoy me then.
Clement, you challenge first. Repetition of letter. Yes, right. What I wear under my kilt, 34 seconds available, starting now.
Grammatically, I think the subject should be what I was under my kilt.
Ross challenged.
Deviation, it isn't.
I think they can express that thought within the show and still not be deviating. But we enjoyed the thought and your contribution so much, Ross. No, I'll give you a bonus point for that because the audience really appreciated it. Clement keeps the subject and a point for being interrupted. What I wear under my kilt, Clement, 29 seconds starting now.
Underpants, mostly, because I don't come from Scotland.
Ross, you challenge.
Mostly?
Mostly.
Once you've got pants on, you surely can't wear anything else on top of them as well.
So yes, you can.
Oh, can you?
Yes.
So what was your challenge?
I have no idea.
Right.
I just hadn't really said much, I thought.
I know. You could have had him for hesitation.
I'll have him for hesitation.
No, it's too late now, I'm sorry. No, we can't have retrospective challenges. So, Clement, another point to you because it was incorrect. And what I wear under my kilt is still there. 26 seconds starting now.
Also a truss and a hearing aid.
Graham Norton, new challenge.
He stopped.
I know he did. He was so amused at his own joke he couldn't keep going. So, Graham, you got in with hesitation. 21 seconds. Tell us something about what I wear under my kilt, starting now.
I don't mean to criticize this lovely country, but it's not exactly the south of France. So why people decided to wear a skirt and no knickers seems extraordinary. Big woolly pants, that's the way to go. It's freezing out there. And also, tartany stuff, it gets very wet as well. So perhaps plastic should have been invented here.
So, Graham Norton is surging forward, speaking again as the whistle went, getting that extra point. He's now in a strong lead. He's just ahead of Clement Freud, Ross Noble, and Charles Collingwood in that order. Charles, it's your turn to begin. The subject, this is a good one. I don't know if it's been chosen specially. Archers. Tell us something about Archers in just a minute, starting now.
The Archers is celebrating its golden anniversary this year. I am particularly proud of that, because it is no longer a soap opera, more of an institution, and something that I feel the public love dearly. For my part, I have played the part of Brian Aldridge for 26 years, a character that the general populace find less appealing. But nonetheless, I enjoy so much the fervour and the drama that is created for me by our scriptwriters. Mercifully, I am not in true life married to Jennifer, but to the girl who plays Shula, Judy Bennett, the light of my life. And Shula is such a joy, as is my wife. My middle name is Henry.
So Ross Noble went for a full 60 seconds there.
Ross Noble?
Yes, that's right, and I won the point.
I went for 60 seconds.
I know.
Nearly killed me.
I know. So Charles Collingwood then went for a full 60 seconds without being interrupted. So he not only gets a point for not being interrupted, he gets that bonus point for speaking when the whistle went to the end, and he's in second place. And I must say that, by the way, I should explain to our listeners, the reason the audience were laughing so much at Charles, because he did it extremely well, was that his actions and animation as he was trying to keep going was such, it had the audience in stitches. He actually acted far stronger than he spoke. Well, well done, Charles. Ross, will you take the next subject, which is synchronized swimming? I'm sure you've got something to tell us about that subject in this game, starting now.
I find synchronised swimming very boring indeed. It tends to be the same old shapes time and again, because I think it would be much better if they were to simply introduce a live shark into the swimming pool, seeing the bodies writhing around, and they'd all have to copy each other as well. Sometimes, when the swimming suits come off, they all disrobe.
Graham, challenge.
Oh, no, there might have been a... Oh, no, I'm a fool.
Now he's hesitating.
I did the swimming thing.
You were trying to have him on swimming.
I was going to do swimming, but the swimming's in the title.
Yes, you can repeat the words on the card either together or separately. And, he did repeat swimming, but it's on the card, so an incorrect challenge. So, Ross Noble, you've still got synchronised swimming, and you've got 42 seconds to continue starting now.
I feel that it would be also made incredibly difficult if they were to do it in jelly, or possibly a thick golden syrup. Then they would be able to move very slowly indeed, and practice manoeuvres which had never before been seen.
Clement Freud challenge.
3 woods. Repetition.
Yes, wood this and wood that.
You're a hard man, but fair.
It was a correct challenge, so Clement, you take over. Synchronised swimming, 28 seconds available, starting now.
I would fight for the right of these people to do whatever they want in the privacy of their own pools. And most of them, I seem to notice, are Belgians. Now, I'm not keen on... I don't know what was going on in God's mind when he invented Belgians.
Ross challenge.
Repetition of Belgium.
Belgium.
He said Belgians before, and he said Belgium this time.
I'll get you, Freud.
An incorrect challenge. Another point to Clement, 11 seconds. Synchronised swimming, starting now.
There are Dutch synchronised swimmers who come from Holland or the Netherlands, as some people like to call it. They get into a subterranean aqua...
Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went and gained other points in the round, and so he's moved forward. He's equal with Graham Norton in the lead, and 2 points behind is Charles Collingwood, and then 1 point behind is Ross Noble. And Clement, your turn to begin. The subject, the giraffe. Tell us something about the giraffe in 60 seconds, if you can, starting now.
The giraffe I would like to recommend to all my listeners is at the Suffolk Zoo in Kessingland. You, from London, drive up the A12 via Brentwood, Cheltenham, Colchester, bypass Ipswich, Saxmundham.
Charles, you've challenged.
Being a new boy, I'm not trying to be impertinent, but it would seem more like a sort of map,
he
a
was
route map, rather than talking about
deviating.
giraffes. Deviation.
How else would you get to Kessingland?
Well, I don't want to get there, so
he had deviated you right from giraffes onto a route map, and so there are 44 seconds available. Will you tell us something about the giraffe, starting now?
I would like to say that when I drive into London from north of the area to the centre, I pass London Zoo.
Ross, challenge.
I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
How good of you. I'll carry on.
I don't know if you're wrong until you tell me what you're challenging.
London?
What's that?
Repetition of London?
Yes, London and London Zoo.
But did he not say London Zoo?
London Zoo and London, are they two different things?
No,
London apostrophe S Zoo.
Is it London are, and then we all don't live in the zoo, but...
Oh, I think the word London was repeated.
Yeah,
I think that's
agree.
fair enough, Ross. So you have the subject, you have 34 seconds on the giraffe, starting now.
I find that the giraffe has possibly got the longest neck of any animal alive. That's probably because it's very difficult for them to get scarves. The knitwear industry doesn't cater for the sore necks of the giraffe. Why you would have a particularly ill neck if you're wearing... It's nonsense. It's quite clearly... It quite clearly isn't anything, is it?
Clement, you challenge.
Repetition of neck.
Yes, that's right. And you have the subject, you have another point, and you have 19 seconds, the giraffe, starting now.
England once had a 5'9" goalkeeper about whom it was written, unlike the female giraffe, he has considerable trouble with the high balls. I have always remembered that because giraffes are such an extraordinary shape.
Graham, challenge.
Oh, I might be right. I think giraffes was repeated.
No, he said giraffe. It was in the singular the first time.
But wasn't it female giraffes?
You're right, it was female giraffes, wasn't it? Well listened, Graham.
Don't look so surprised, Nicholas.
You've got in, Graham, with 1 second to go on the giraffe, starting now.
In Dublin's Natural History Museum...
Right, so Graham Norton was speaking as a whistle, went, gained that extra point, and he's moved forward. He's now in the lead, actually, just ahead of Clement Freud and then Charles Collingwood and Ross Noble in that order. And Graham, it's your turn to begin. The subject is moving house. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Thanks to employing a cheap builder, my mother's bungalow actually shifts slightly in the wind. Neighbours gather to watch it. It's the moving house. It's attracted a lot of attention from the moving statue that was close by. Pilgrims now come to that lady who gave birth to me's residence and stare in awe. She hates it herself because, of course, little ornaments fall off all the time. Poor cow. I do find that it is fun to sit in, though, when the wind is blowing and the thing is shifting.
Charles.
Now, that must have been hesitation.
It was hesitation,
yes.
Charles. Well,
all right, then.
Yes, you've got in there, Charles. And another point, of course, to you. And you have 24 seconds. You tell us something about moving house, starting now.
I've always been told that after death, moving house is the most stressful thing you can go through. If you clear out a house, you find so many artifacts that need wrapping that you no longer care for. And so, to me...
Clement Freud challenge.
Deviation.
What?
You don't move house after death.
I beg to differ. How do you know? None of us know that.
Well, you don't move house. Someone else might move you.
You don't know. None of us know. We may move. Everything just moves up with us, but maybe not. Maybe. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
I made a mistake.
I don't think you can... I think you take your possessions with you. I think you should explain to the listeners the other character you were doing, Sewell. What's his name? Brian Sewell.
No, it wasn't. I was trying to do Kenneth Williams because he was so good at it.
I thought you were...
No, I'll do Brian Sewell later.
I thought you were doing Brian Sewell then, actually.
No, Brian Sewell talks like that. Most extraordinary way of speaking.
Right.
And,
so he was
maybe I'll save him for later.
Right. And they get utterly confused. It is radio. They can't see
sorry.
it. So, Clement got in with 2 seconds ago on Moving House, starting now.
Moving house.
Right, so Clement Freud speaking as a whistle, gained an extra point for doing so. He's moved forward. He's just in the lead now ahead of Graham Norton and Charles Collingwood. Your turn to begin. The subject, cobbles. Tell us something about cobbles in this game, starting now.
Much as I like the sight of cobblestone streets, I do find that driving along them gives one a headache. This is because the noise that emanates from the street level...
Ross Noble challenge.
Repetition of street?
You said street.
I'm sure I did.
Yes, you definitely did. And so, 47 seconds available for you, Ross, to take over the subject of cobbles, starting now.
One of the lovely sounds I like to hear is hooves on cobbles. It sounds a little bit like coconuts, which a friend of mine was actually tragically killed when a massive coconut ran over him.
Clement Freud challenge.
2 coconuts.
There were too many coconuts, I'm afraid.
Did I not... Coconut and then coconut?
No.
No.
Okay. I thought I did, but I must have been very wrong.
They'll struggle for their points. Clement, you have cobbles, and you have 36 seconds starting now.
Cobbles would have been on the thoroughfare along which Molly Malone plied her trade as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cobbles and mussels, alive. Oh, she was a fishmonger, and sure, it was no wonder, for so were her father and mother before.
He's broken.
Yeah. No, you were challenged quite a while back, Clement.
I think he was talking a load of cobbles, actually, because he was obviously deviating.
Yes, because it wasn't...
Because she didn't say, she said cockles.
She said cockles and mussels,
which,
not
of course,
cobbles.
Clement knows.
She had a cold.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Clem.
And, no, it was Cockles and Mussels. Cobbles, well challenged. And a point to you, Charles. Cobbles is with you, and there are 22 seconds available starting now.
When it's been raining, if you look down at the road, the reflection of the cobbles enables you to see your face. This is rather a surprise.
Clem challenged.
You're saying this aloud. You don't want people knowing you do that.
Listen.
On your hands and the knees in the rain. Just to look at yourself.
Graham.
Go home, a bathroom, use it.
Be kind to a radio actor.
I know, I was saving you there for yourself.
So,
Lecture, Psychiatrist's Chair will be the next program you'll appear on.
Oh, I'd love that.
So what is the challenge, Graham?
Just deviation from anything, really.
Well, the thing is, within the rules of just a minute...
How did you know that? When it rains, I've been here months. When it rains, you look in there and you see your face.
I must explain to the listeners, there are a lot of cobbled streets in Edinburgh. And if Charles is so strange that he does look down at the cobbles and looks at his reflection when they're wet, well, then that's something strange that he does. And he wasn't deviating within the rules of just a minute. Maybe a devious idea, but it's not devious speech. So, the incorrect challenge from Graham on you, Charles. You keep the subject. You have 10 seconds. Go. Starting now.
Only this morning, as I watched, I saw this pimple on my lip, and I thought that must be covered with Clearasil before this evening. And so when
Charles Collingwood. Speaking as a whistle, gain an extra point. And for someone who's not played the game before, he's doing remarkably well. He's now in second place, only 1 point behind our leader, Clement Freud. And I must explain to all the people here, the fringe here, if you go around Edinburgh and you see somebody on his hands and knees squeezing a pimple into a cobble, you'll know it's Charles Collingwood. But we all have our idiosyncrasies, and
that one's mine.
And that one's his. And we're now with you, Ross Noble, to begin. The subject is clutching at straws. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Clutching at straws is the best thing to do if you find yourself drowning in milkshake. Perhaps you should working at a well-known burger restaurant, and while stocking up the machine, you slip forward. The best thing to do is to grab with your hands and get yourself out of the trouble that you're in. Or you could possibly drink your way out. But the straw is the best method of removal from the thick, glutinous liquid that is dragging you down into the strawberry abyss that is a large cup of shake. The other thing that I like to do when I'm clutching at
Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition of thing.
Yes, you did have mentioned the word thing before.
It's
a pity, I know.
Yep.
I know.
You've done it again, Freud.
The audience enjoyed your surreal ideas there, but afraid it was a correct challenge. 25 seconds, Clement, clutching at straws, starting now.
If you have a lap dancer sitting on you, then clutching at straws, especially if she's wearing a hula skirt, would be a tremendous mistake, because as clutching straw meets clutching straw, so does she...
Ross,
well, I'm a little bit nervous, I don't mind telling you. Straw, repetition of straw.
That's right, because there's somebody on the card is clutching at straws.
Yeah.
And he repeated the word straw twice.
But straw is in straws.
Clement, you played the game with me for 36 years, and I think you know your...
Don't you think Clement's clutching at straws?
We just mix up the letters. This is a good game now.
Yes.
Then it'd just be countdown, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's so easy. Some of those letters were in there. Yeah.
Clutch, right. So, 9 seconds. Back with you, Ross Noble. Clutching at straws, 9 seconds starting now.
I once entered the international sponsored Move a Haystack tournament. It really was a marvellous event, all for charity, and I found myself clutching at straws.
So, Ross Noble was speaking as the whistle went, and once again, same thing happened last time we were in Edinburgh. It's all extremely close. Clement Freud's just in the lead, 2 ahead of Charles Collingwood, and then 4 ahead of Ross Noble, and 3 ahead of Graham Norton, then Ross Noble. It's all very close, and it's all great fun. And Charles, it's also your turn to begin. A nice topical subject for Edinburgh. It's Arthur's Seat. Tell us something about Arthur's Seat in this game, starting now.
After about 20 minutes on this programme, I feel that my presence...
Graham Norton challenge.
I do feel horrible. No, but it was hesitation.
It was hesitation.
Yes.
But he's only played the game once before. No, he's never played the game before, has he? And
It seems...
Tell us.
Time's dragging, isn't it, Nicholas?
No. But it was hesitation, but as he's never played the game before, and I'm allowed to give him one. Every newcomer is allowed one dispensation.
You are the sweetest man.
This is his dispensation. It's the last one I can give to you, Charles. But Arthur's seat, we won't charge any points on that. You keep going. 54 seconds, starting now.
I am to just a minute what Arthur Scargill is to the Harrogate Young Conservatives. And as our politics moves further to the right, I wouldn't want to be in Arthur's seat. He seems to be a forgotten man. But behind us here in Edinburgh rises a rock from the ground. A large piece of turf covering this stony promontory, which I believe is covered with courting couples on warm summer nights. Sadly, I have passed that stage in life when the idea of a night on a freezing cold ledge gives me any pleasure at all. But I can see through my binoculars from my flat those people having all the fun in the world when the weather isn't pouring with rain.
Charles Collingwood started with the subject, and in spite of interruptions, he finished with the subject, which means he had points in the round and one for speaking as the whistle went. He has now moved dramatically forward. He's only 1 point behind Graham Norton, who is our leader. And I mention these things with emphasis because we're moving into the final round. And he's only 1 point ahead of Clement Freud, who's in third place, and he's only 3 points ahead of Ross Noble, who's in fourth place. It's still anybody's contest, if you're interested in the contest. Ross Noble. The final round, and it's your turn to begin. So, the subject, answer machine messages. Tell us something about those in this game, starting now.
I don't really like answer machine messages because they tend to go something like this. Hi, it's John here. I was just wondering, beep, and that tends to sound like they're swearing at you. That kind of vulgarity isn't what I want when I come in of an evening. I'd like to hear something like, hello there, this is Carol Smiley. I'd like to come round to your house and do it up, specially for your pleasure. That's the kind of thing that really would make me happy. I've got...
Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition.
Of what?
Smile, kind, like. You choose.
You said smiley anyway.
No, kind, like.
That's right. All right, Clement. You have another point. You have the subject. And you have 35 seconds. Answer machine messages starting now.
If you want to buy marijuana, press the hash key. Is possibly my favorite telephone answering machine message. Sadly, I do not smoke in any shape or form and do not have such a...
Ross Noble challenge.
He's clearly stoned.
Hesitation. So, Ross, you've got the subject back. There's 18 seconds available. Answer machine messages starting now.
I got home the other night and there was a message from my dealer. Hello, this is Clement Freud, he said. I'd like to come round and give you some of the finest drugs that money can buy. I thought, surely that's not acceptable from a man of your stature. But he did come round later on that day and something hilarious happened.
Noble, finishing in strength and with a flourish, brought that round to an end, got an extra point for doing so, and also brought the show to an end. And, oh, yes.
Well, rehearsed, well done.
The series is carrying on, so I hope they'll see us next year when we come up to the Edinburgh Fringe. Great.
Rehearsed, well done.
Yes. You've got us a rebooking. Thank you very much. There we are. So, actually, I must give you the final score. I'd like to give you the final score. And it's delightful to say that they're all so equally balanced. There's only 1 point separating most of them. Ross Noble was only just in fourth place, 2 points behind our joint second place, Clement Freud and Charles Collingwood. And great congratulations to Charles, first time, really, second place. Only 1 point behind Graham Norton, who is therefore our winner this week. It only remains for me to say Thank you to our 4 delightful players of the game, Graham Norton, Ross Noble, Clement Freud and Charles Collingwood. I also thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me with the score. She'd blown a whistle when the 60 seconds was up. And also we're grateful to our producer-director, that is Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, which we enjoy playing so much. And we're also indebted to our audience here at the Pleasance on the Fringe in Edinburgh, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. Come back next year to play Just a Minute. Until then, from all of us here on the panel and me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Tune in when we play this game again. Bye.